Well, we are on the final countdown for Spider-Man No Way Home, and one of the villains that's going to play big in this upcoming movie is Flint Marko, aka The Sandman. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about Marko's past, how he became the Sandman, and where he fits into the Marvel Universe. Welcome to our history of the Sandman. Now, before we dive into this though, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. Also, the huge giveaway. We got a PlayStation 5 to give away at 25,000 subscribers. All you need to do to get in on our giveaway is be a subscriber and leave some sort of comment. Also, while you're at it, check out that free week of Skillshare down below. It's a spectacular way to develop all the superhero skills you need for your ongoing war on crime, all while not diving too deep into your pocket. Plus, it helps the channel, so we really appreciate it. The villains of Marvel Comics, especially Spider-Man, are tremendously diverse, with intricate and intertwined storylines helping to establish their history. The Sandman is one of the first villains that Spider-Man ever faced in the comics, and he actually debuted in 1963's Amazing Spider-Man No. 4 after being created by the legendary duo of Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. Now initially, his name was William Baker, not Flint Marko, and he was a high school football player who just made some poor decisions. He was actually bribed by a fellow football player and threw the game. Of course, he got caught and was expelled from school, although he did blame it on his anger management issues. Now, following his expulsion, William, not Flint, devoted his time and efforts to become a career criminal. Now, to give you an idea of how serious he got, he was eventually caught and sentenced to Rikers Island Prison, which is no cakewalk. Now, it was there that he discovered his real father, Floyd Baker, another convict who actually abandoned him when he was 3 years old. Rather than expose his own identity to his father, he referred to himself as Flint Marko, and that's how he got his criminal alias. Now, in the comics, he manages to break out of a maximum security jail and make his way to a beach in Savannah, Georgia. Now, this beach happens to be near an atomic testing facility, and as we all know, hanging out near nuclear test sites, especially in comics, usually doesn't end well. An explosion at the test site actually released an enormous amount of radiation into the air, and this fused his DNA with sand-like substances. He quickly realized that he had a new physiology in a matter of seconds. And more critically, he discovered that he can shapeshift and manipulate sand, easily turning himself into dust or even becoming rock solid. Now, he first confronts Spider-Man in The Amazing Spider-Man No. 4, where he got into an altercation with Spidey at Peter's high school. Now, eventually, Spider-Man lures the not-so-bright Sandman into the school's basement in an anticlimactic yet pretty brilliant plan. Spidey uses the vacuum that the janitor had been using earlier that day to suck up the grainy guy just before the Sandman could transform himself into loose sand and escape. Now, Flint Marko has a pretty lengthy and complicated backstory, and while he's most famous for his work with Spider-Man, he has shared feuds with other Marvel characters including the Incredible Hulk and the Fantastic Four. He actually served as a member of the Frightful Four, who are a villainous version of the Fantastic Four, but to be fair, he did wind up eventually befriending the Thing after he questioned his life of crime at one point. The Sandman is much more than a man made of sand, and this is revealed through many of the storylines and character arcs we've seen over the years. Actually, in Avengers 329, the Sandman was made a reserve member of the Avengers and fought beside Spider-Man after giving up his life of crime and attempting to rehabilitate and reform himself. Now, probably most importantly, Flint Marko was known as one of the founding members of the Sinister Six, and this appears to be what's going on in the upcoming film, or at least a variation of it. Flint Marko has been an absolute staple of Spider-Man's rogues gallery for decades now. When you say Spider-Man, one of the first villains that comes to mind for many is the Sandman. Now, I'm not sure where Marvel Studios is headed with the character in the upcoming film, but I have to think he has a bright future on the screen, and I would be curious to see if he eventually becomes some sort of reformed hero. Spider-Man 3 did a pretty good job of portraying Flint Marko as somewhat of a sympathetic villain, and quite honestly, the performance from Thomas Hayden Church embodied that sympathy perfectly. You just felt sorry for the guy. Now we're going to continue some of these History of Spider-Man villains over the next couple of weeks, so make sure you stay tuned. The Lizard is next, then Electro, then Doc Ock. So what do you guys think? Did you know Flint Marko was an alias for the Sandman's real name? And also, did you know he was a member of the Avengers at one point in history? Sound off in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you press like, click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you're not going to get any updates. Peace.